Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a phenomenal brother that I've had the pleasure of knowing now probably at least a year and a half, probably knocking on close to 2 years since we first met one another. This brother is an Air Force veteran. He's a sales and marketing guru. Um, Anything you want to know about business networking, business relationship strategies, this is your man for the job. Of course, he's a loving husband, but his most important title is that he's a man of God. And he's taken time out of his very busy schedule to hang out with us this evening to share a little bit of his journey, a little bit of his story with the hopes of encouraging, inspiring, and uplifting us, especially when it comes to dealing with the challenges and adversities of life that we all face and are looking for ways to better navigate such storms that we come across over the course of our lives. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you this phenomenal guest we have this evening, someone that I call friend. His name is Mr. Arron Gonzales. Arron, thank you so much for being on the show.
Joseph, man, I appreciate you, Mr. Roberts, as well. It has been almost 2 years now since we first met, and I enjoy your enthusiasm and your leadership and all the stuff that you're doing. I mean, your book is fantastic, and these wonderful podcasts. I try every chance I get, at least catch some of it, and listen to some of the different shows. And you're absolutely right, man. By doing this, there's stories out there on all your shows that make a difference. So I hope anybody out there in the podcast world, if you hear these, don't just listen to this one, listen to some other ones as well. So I'm grateful to be here.
Awesome, man, and I'm thankful to have you, man. I know you're a busy man, got a lot on your plate, but so anytime you take time out to do something like this is definitely appreciated. And I'm excited to learn just another layer of your story and just finding out, more about who you are and why God has led you to be on the path that you're on right now, doing the things that you're doing. So with that said, before we jump into our segments, however, I do want to give you an opportunity to do a general introduction of yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, kind of give our audience a taste of who is Arron Gonzales.
Well, I appreciate that. I was born in the West Coast in California, a product of a divorced family. So I lived part time with my dad, part time with my mom, and most of the time with my grandma. So I and my aunts. I was raised by women, and that's a big part of my story. We'll get into later, but yeah, I went to high school, didn't go to college, but I did go into the military. I take that back. I went to a year and a semester of college because one of my mentors told me, you don't have to go to get a degree, just go to some knowledge that you're missing, and we'll get into that later too. But I've been in the music business where I started my entrepreneurship. Was early on. I did a lot with the music business, everything from street promotion to DJing to having my own label and distribution through a company called Tower Records, and I'm dating myself there. But then the military came about, did the military thing, and immediately jumped right into music and entrepreneurship. And we had a ton of things going on while I was active duty. I had my own business going on, and it actually expanded from coast to coast. And that's where we come today in this marketing opportunity that I've created and that we're doing. It's because of the music thing that led us to make contacts and meet individuals from coast to coast. So I love my church, I love God, I love my family, and that's who I am, man. I'm just a people person. My name is Aaron, and in the Bible, you know what that meant. That was I'm a support. I supported Moses all the way. His arm got tired. I lifted it up. So I play a support role in pretty much everything that I do.
That is awesome. And to my listeners, he is not, in any way understating. That's exactly what he is. He is a support on so many levels. So, and again, he's going to have an opportunity to tap into that a little bit more. And I've had the pleasure of being a beneficiary of some of his products and services as well. So the brother knows what he's doing. And he's excellent at it. And then you add in the customer service effect, the genuine enthusiasm that he offers up to really make you feel like he wants to see your work product be successful and be the best that it can be. So you can't ask for anything more when you have someone like that that you have the opportunity to work with. So I think you're going to be very pleased with learning more about my brother this evening. And like I said, I'm excited to hear another layer of your story. So with that said, I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's go ahead and jump on into this thing. Aaron, when I have people come on the show, one of the things that I like to take a few moments to do is to have that moment of reflection, to take things back to where it all begins, because I really do believe sincerely that where we are in our path in the present, as God is walking us out in our purpose and laying out the things that we should be doing, the very reason why we were created, much of that connection to all of that goes again as far back as our childhood, certain people that we encounter, certain events that we experience, things of that nature. And while it may not always make sense early on, over time, you're able to kind of piece together little by little, connecting the dots, so to speak, and it starts to make sense as to why you had to go through what you had to go through, or why you had to encounter who you had to encounter along the way. So, with that said, if you would take us back to the beginnings of your childhood and kind of share with us what was it like for you growing up, fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there's any particular challenges that come to mind that you'd like to share as well. You can do that also. Just kind of give us that foundational basis of where your story begins.
Well, my story is filled with several chapters, right? And of course, I didn't know that growing up. I didn't know that till much later on, and when I was encouraged by others, mentors, and other business people to really look back, much as like what your question does, and it's very important that people do that. So this is a really important question to ask. I grew up in Sacramento, California, which is the capital city of the state of California. And I was raised by my mom. Like I told you, my parents were never married, right? My dad was always in my life. My mom was always in my life, but they were never, I cannot remember them living in the same household with me ever. All right. It was either me and my grandmother or and all my uncles, or me and my mom and maybe an aunt, or me and my mom. Or I went because my mom couldn't afford it, went to my dad and stayed with my dad. Then he got remarried. So it was my dad and my stepmom. But yeah, early on, it was always family though. There was always love. As a child, I didn't know we was broke. I know we didn't have money. I know we didn't have things, but there was so much love and so much family because we're a very big family. You got the Gonzaleses, which is Portuguese. So we're Cape Verdeans, we're islanders. And there's a lot of Cape Verdeans in Sacramento, California. They settled in New York and then went all the way across to California. So we always had big family on the Gonzales side, but then the Anderson side was Indian and black from Arizona that migrated to Sacramento. So that was huge family. I mean, I remember summers when aunts and uncles from Phoenix would show up in more than one vehicle in a big old Winnebago, and for a whole month there might be 30 people in my grandmother's house. Some of they slept in the Winnebago, and then I mean it was just that way. Barbecues, food, hanging out, fun. And so as a child, yeah, we didn't have no money, but we had lots of stuff. We had lots of
Mm-hmm.
family, lots of love. And that was real, that was very critical for me for my development, because as I grew in that environment in Sacramento, and then I got old enough to where my mom really wanted us to get out of that ghetto.
Well, look like you froze momentarily, Aaron. I'll let you work through that. Again, this is Blessings in the Streets podcast with our special guest, Arron Gonzales. We just had a minor technical difficulty, so while Aaron works through that, we'll bring him back on board and finish moving along with his story. He's already shared some powerful things so far: big family environment, identifying the fact that love overcomes, the absence of money. And I personally can attest to that. When for those of us who grew up in similar times, similar moments where that was the reality. You knew you didn't have a lot, but there's just something about the love. There's just something about the family that just seems to over overtake, whatever, any kind of financial lack, and that's always a beautiful thing to reflect on. So I appreciate Aaron sharing with that with us early on in our broadcast, because it's such an important thing to take into consideration when we talk about, those humble beginnings, and just having an appreciation of that support network that is so critical, in the development of a young child, particularly a young, child of color, because we all have heard all the stereotypes that are out there where, if you're not, you're part of your child of color, black, brown child, and you come from a quote unquote broken home, dad's not there, mom's not there, their parents not married, things of that nature. There's all these, you know, predictions, if you will, as to how your life is going to turn out, and oftentimes those predictions don't include, a lot of success stories. So, with what Aaron has shared with us, just even in these early few minutes of the podcast broadcast, is really critical. Which is again why I like to take this time to reflect on those beginning moments. So I'm definitely enjoying how things are getting off to a great start with Aaron and his story. So again, this is the Blessings in the Streets podcast. Our special guest this evening, Arron Gonzales, is having a little technical issues on his end, so he should be joining back with us momentarily. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and I'm thankful so much for you guys tuning in and hanging out with us for a while, because this is what we do here. We want to inspire, we want to encourage, and so it's always a treat. It's always a pleasure. It's an honor, if you will, to be able to bring on, you know, people from all walks of life, being vulnerable and sharing their stories, just like my guy Aaron this evening is doing. So, I'm so thankful for that, and thankful for him being a part of this. So, I appreciate your patience while we work through this technical issue on Aaron's end. Like I said, he'll be back with us momentarily as he works out whatever kink on his end, and we'll be good to go. So just please stand by, and we'll continue onward with our podcast for this evening, because I know you guys are excited to hear more just as much as I am, hear more about his story. So we'll get it worked out. It's this is and when moments like this happen, it's so interesting because, this is the epitome of storms. There are unexpected moments, glitches in life that take place, and this is all this is. It's an unexpected glitch in life. We didn't see this coming, the technical difficulty, but technical difficulties in life happen. It's how you respond in such moments that makes the difference in the world, rather than, do you respond in a sense of calm and peace, and not worrying about it, not stressing about it, letting it work itself out and navigating through. You do that. Um, that's the way we handle it. Aaron is back with us, so um, we good to go, Aaron. You can hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. You can hear
All
me
right.
okay?
Yes, yes, yes. So we've been good. I've been keeping the audience company while we worked out your technical issues. So Mr. Arron Gonzales is back with us. So I'm gonna go ahead and let him complete his story as he's sharing with us the beginnings moment of his journey. So go ahead, Aaron. Pick up where
Uh,
you left off.
where I left off, was I talking about all my folks coming over from Arizona?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So and like I said, we that was family, that was love, and that was really my foundation, because it was easy to point back to so many positive things when there's so many of you that love to stay in communication, stay in contact. And I had 9 uncles, and at one time, 5 of them was living in my grandmother's house while I was living with my grandmother. So in that neighborhood, I was like the prince, because my mom was the oldest of all of them, and they all was in high school pretty much together. At any time, it might have been 4, 5, 6 of them in high school, so nobody would mess with the Andersons. So I pretty much can walk wherever I want to, when I want to, because they see me. That was like, that's that Anderson boy. Don't mess with him, because his family crazy, right? So, so I got to see a lot of stuff, right? And but that was my childhood. Then I went into high school. I stayed with my dad, and then I was raised by my dad and Carol Ann, which was a total different world, because she was white and she was Lutheran, and my dad was vegetarian, so I, I can remember, and there was a lot of rules with my dad in his house, which I was cool with because I kind of created my own rules living in my grandmother's house with all my cousins because you get a beat down if you leave your toys all over the place. So I learned how to put my toys in the toy box and sit on them so nobody can get in them. So my stuff wasn't all over. I kept my stuff clean because I seen them getting in trouble. See, I pick up on stuff
Mhm.
right away. I see something that I don't want, so I don't do it. Something that happened to them and they get in trouble for, so I don't do that either. I do
Mhm.
the stuff that you get rewarded for and stay away from the stuff that they got in trouble for. So, and that it really has helped me through uh, a lot of things. But high school was a trip because I was in different, I was part time. My dad, then I had to go move back with my mom, and I graduated from high school in the Bay Area with my mom. So I was kind of like back and forth all the way through high school, and then I made it out of high school, and it was pretty much nothing to do. So I graduated in '85, and in '87 I realized I'm going to the military. So I went to the military because I just was tired of seeing in the hood, everybody, police and going to jail and just no jobs and just didn't feel like I was a college type. So I went to the military and I joined the Air Force. And it was supposed to have been for 4 years while my long-term girlfriend was going to college. I figured she went off to college, I'm gonna go off to the military, and then we'll come together. She'll graduate, I'll get out, we'll come together, get married, live happily ever after. Well, that didn't work. Two years into it, some stuff went down in New York with her family, and she ended up moving into the base with me. We
Mm.
got married early. We had started having kids. I ended up doing 10 years active duty Air Force, and then got out of the Air Force. We lasted a few more years, then we just got divorced, and we co-parented, raising kids. She did the most of the work. Of course, I left her the house and everything, and I got nothing. So I, I just went on with my life and tried to find my way and did the best that I can. And one thing led to another. I rented a lot of stuff, but that was my beginnings, man. It was just family, lots of love, and just constantly moving and growing, really not knowing the situation I was really in, how bad it was because we had so much love and family.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I was sharing. Well, one, I appreciate your transparency and sharing what you have. And while you were working out your technical kinks, I was sharing with the audience about just the appreciation that I had in the fact of when you speak about love and family overcoming the lack of financial means. Because if you grew up in the times, in particular, like times like you and I grew up in, we're close in age, and back in those days of the '70s, and and if you will, and that's how it was back then. A lot of us didn't have. If you grew up in, quote unquote, you grew up in the hood, and whether it was single parent households, money was lacking. It's just so amazing back then how you just didn't really realize, the extent of the financial strain because of, again, that family component, because of that love component. So I always like to hear stories like that, because it's not only is it a feel good moment to reflect on, but it also triggers memories of that as well. That extended family, the grandparent, the uncles, the aunts, even neighbors, depending upon where you grew up in. They were kind of like this extended family of people who were looking out for you, to making sure that you weren't into
Absolutely.
stuff that you didn't have no business being into, and that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and then I also had an appreciation when you said, when you spoke about how you were observant in terms of paying attention, the things to do and not to do, because you said, hey, if I do this, that gets me in trouble. If I do this, that actually gets me, in good standing. And you tried to avoid that bad stuff as much as possible and reflect more on the good side, which is a smart move, and like I said, it puts you in a favorable position, because like myself, I mean, my mom was, and both, well, my mother and grandmother were big on discipline. But if I had to be honest, I mean, I don't have a story where I tell you about all of the beat downs, if you will. And it wasn't because they were anti-discipline. It was because I learned quick. I learned real fast, like what made sense that would get you, you know, favor, and what made sense that would get you in some trouble. So you didn't have to, you know, get at me a ton of times for me to get the point. You know, no, I'm good. You know, so I didn't understand it. If I saw other friends, you know, to seem to have to repeat that same lesson over and over and over again, I'm like, what don't you get? Like, you enjoy this, you know? Because
Right.
I don't, you know. So, but you know, that's just a part of growing up, just a part of life, and you know. But nevertheless, even in what on paper might seem to be circumstances that seem to be insurmountable or have a bad ending, if you will. It's always good to let people be reminded of the fact that just because you don't have a lot of money, growing up does not mean that that's the end of your story. That means that suddenly you don't have a hope for any type of future or anything like that. Even your decision to be, you know, upfront with yourself and say, you know what, I don't think college is a good fit for me. Because the reality is that college isn't for everybody. So, you know, you know, pursuing a career in the military, I mean, that ended up being a powerful thing. I'm sure you learned lots of things in that 10-year time frame, that many of those skill sets, if nothing more, just the discipline of it all that you're able to apply in your works today. So that's why I like to have these moments where we reflect back, because it, again, little elements here and there that those experiences add up as you bring it forward and say, this is where I'm at today. What parts of those moments from back then apply to now? And I'm sure you've probably had, you know, several of those reflection moments, and again, been able to connect those dots. So that's excellent. I appreciate, again, you sharing that introduction, if you will, to your story. So, um,
Absolutely.
yes, yes. So Aaron, as you know, you have your childhood experiences. You make it through high school. You got your Air Force career. You even, you know, have a marriage at a young age, being a father and all that stuff. And you know, as you get older, the reality is that the experiences don't stop, and those experiences include storms. They don't stop coming. And truth be told, every now and then, if you live long enough, you're going to encounter a storm or two on occasion that hits you different. And when I say hit you different, it hits you in such a way that, you know, every so often it's a burden, it's a weight on you that when you're going through it, you might not see a way out. It might seem like it's insurmountable. It may seem like there's no getting around it, getting through it, and there's this sense of helplessness or hopelessness, if you will. Even if you grew up being a person of faith, you know, sometimes even then you might be questioning God, like, hey, like, what am I doing here? How am I going to get through this? So, with that said, if you would tell us about a time when you felt like you were in a situation like that, where you didn't see a way out, you didn't see how you were going to overcome that particular burden, that particular moment of adversity. Of course, you're here today, so that lets us know that God worked it out for you to be here today to even tell the story. But maybe back then you weren't so quite sure about that. So with that said, kind of walk us through whatever the story is that you're going to share with us, and kind of share with us, you know, what was ultimately the turning point, when you began to see that light at the end of the tunnel and coming up out of that situation.
Well, let's see. Uh, when I got divorced,
Mm-hmm.
that was hard. That was real hard. I mean, you talking peaks and valleys. You talking storms. That was definitely a valley. Because coming from the family that I described earlier, and then creating our own family, um, it was really hard because I was trying to figure out, what did I do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just what did I do? I was accepting the blame that this didn't work because it was my fault, right? That's that um, and just to set the story a little bit, how they say opposites attract.
Mm-hmm.
That's really true, because my ex-wife, uh, uh, our both our last names started with G, so her locker was next to mine in our junior year, really,
Mm-hmm.
because I had left and went back to stay with my mom, so I didn't get to finish school with her. So we knew each other and of each other, and kind of that's where we came together, started dating a little bit back in high school. Then I left, went back to Sacramento, and then eventually came back and stayed with my mom after I graduated to help my mom out. and then I found her, right? And we got back together again. And then I told you she went off to college. I went off to the military. We got together, got married. Well, 14 years into it, two kids that were growing up with this nice house, cars, jobs, career, business. Uh, Her was school education, career. Mine was entrepreneurship. So it was like we were going different directions, but the goal, the end point was the same:
Mm-hmm.
success. She wanted the degree to get to success, to get a higher paying job. And I wanted entrepreneurship and stability in doing the same thing for a number of years to build a reputation and clientele to have the financial success. The
Mm-hmm.
title, same thing. It just was different paths of doing that. I saw hers, but she obviously didn't see mine. So when I was served for the to be divorced, that hit me like a ton of bricks, man. It was like really, 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 really hard. And I thank God for those upbringings in my story before with the family, right? Because I took those kind of family relationships into my business, and my business associates were family. So we had an inner circle, and then a circle on the outer, and then another circle on top of that. And when I started not showing up to stuff, that's when the fellas came to me to see what was going on. And if I was if I was a drinker or a smoker, I would have been drunk a lot. But luckily, growing up, I didn't do any drinking or smoking, so I didn't turn to that as a vice. But I did kind of just get, it was a state of depression. I didn't want to do nothing because my mind was trying to figure out, what did I do? How can I get this family back? And it really took my brothers, man, just my business associates that were brothers, right? They're the ones that's like, dude, you ain't, what did you look in the mirror? What did you do? You ain't do nothing. If it's her path to do what she wants to do, it's not on you. And they pulled me up out of that, man. And just coming to get me, making me get in their car, making me shave, put on some clothes and just get up out of there
Mm-hmm.
and get out. Even when I had to leave the house and have my own spot, it was a really dark time, but it was just those brotherhoods and those associations that were more than just a business associate. These were, even today, we still are boys today,
Mm-hmm.
and here it is, it's 40, 30, 35, 40 years later, right? Because I'm 57, so I take that not that long, but 30 years later. But yeah, that was my thing. And then of course when my mom passed away, that was tough on me too,
Mm-hmm.
because she passed away while me and my ex-wife were active duty. So that was, she stayed with us her last days, and I thank God for hospice. So you know, hospice gifted them people were, they saved us a lot. But yeah, those were times. But even that time, it was family came together that pulled out of there. But it was my military family,
Mm-hmm.
which was prior to my divorce, and business family. But yeah, those were probably two really big ones.
Yeah. Again, man. First off, your transparency, your vulnerability is definitely welcomed and appreciated. It's never easy, obviously, to lose a parent. So I can totally identify with that experience of losing a mom. And then, I can also, of course, identify with the experience of going through a divorce. A lot of times when we speak about the subject of divorce, there's a tendency to focus, oftentimes more on the female component to it and not the male side of it, that the husband, and how it impacts. And, because unfortunately, a lot of times, the root cause a lot of times is, oh, well, that divorce didn't work because, he was unfaithful, or, he was, he was uncommitted in some type of way. But your story is, in terms of how it played into the role of your divorce. I think it's a very critical discussion to have because, like you said, you both had the same end goal, but it's the process that you were going to achieve that that cause the strain. And I think for our listeners, and I think you would identify with this, much of the strain that comes with entrepreneurship is the fact that when you are an entrepreneur, it begins with a vision being placed inside of you. That's and I've always referred to entrepreneurship. In fact, I've considered entrepreneurship to be a divine type of assignment on your life. To me, anybody can go into business,
Right.
because to go into business just simply means I want to sell a product or perform a service, with where my main goal is to generate profit. What you do is entrepreneurship, and the reason why I highlight it as such, as you did, is because of something that you actually referred to earlier. Is that yes, you want to make money. Don't Let's not get it confused, but you highlight the importance of relationships to make the people that you come alongside of, that you support, to feel like, you know what, I got your best interest at heart. You're like family to me. And so
Right.
when you identify somebody being like family to you, it's bigger than the dollars and the cents. We talked about that at the very start of your story. Like, we didn't have a lack. We were lacking in finances, but what made up for that was the support of the family. You've carried that, as you shared. You've carried that into your business model. And so when you talk about being in a marriage where one spouse has an entrepreneur mindset and the other one, is more about just their traditional career advancement, which nothing is wrong with either one. It's not one is better
No,
than the other.
not at all.
It's just that the battle, that the struggle that you have, particularly in a marriage dynamic, and I've even experienced a little bit of element of that myself, is that what that vision that God placed in you, He didn't place it in the wife, He didn't place it in the kids. And so the struggle is how do I walk in this purpose, walk in this vision, but yet get the buy-in of the family, the wife and the kids. and
Right. Right.
and while you see all the beauty of it and how it's going to play out, and you got it all, that sales pitch is hard. Even as great as you are in that area, the ones who oftentimes are closest to you, that you need the most support from, just because of by default of the relationship that you have, in this case husband and wife, sometimes that can be a very
Right.
hard sell, because, as you know,
Absolutely.
entrepreneurship has risk and things like that. So if I'm the spouse that's, believes that, hey, it's the education, it's the steady paycheck, it's the things that we can count on, and you're the one that's saying, well, hey, I know that this is going to work out, but there's going to be some sacrifices along the way. There might be some things that we have to pull back on. Well, that other partner is not automatically on board with that,
Right.
and they're not necessarily wrong for that. They just don't. It's not their vision, and so that can create that strain. That can create that friction. That, unfortunately, just like an example of your situation, can cause things to pull apart. And it's not even, as your friends told you, it's not that you did anything wrong. It was just
It's
hard
just
to
yeah.
to embrace that vision, because that's
Right.
again, it's a hard sale. No, I don't care how good you are at your craft. It's a hard sale to that person who didn't get the same vision as you.
Yeah, yeah, and
So
Joseph, I would say too is and when you're going through it, if there's others that are going through it now, it's hard to recognize that you're going
mhm,
through it.
yeah,
See, I can look back, she can look back and see now in that analogy of, she went on the road of education, which she's got a doctorate degree. That's a lot of school,
yeah,
right? It's a lot of school, and that's a lot of pay increases, and that's a lot of stability. Where I went along of entrepreneurship, which there was a lot of levels of entrepreneurships that I hit too, that created a lot of income, but I lost a lot of income. But so did she, because she had to pay for that school. So
hmm,
we were doing the same things. It was different paths, but we couldn't see it was the
hmm,
same thing, but different paths when we were
yeah,
going through it. The one thing that I encourage, that I know now, looking back, is it's really important. Like what you said is important, the buy-in, but how do you sell that to the
hmm,
other person? Either or. She couldn't sell me on school and get a steady job and all that. She couldn't sell me on that, even though she was doing it and it was
hmm,
working. She couldn't sell me on it. I couldn't sell her on entrepreneurship, even though I was good at it and I was working. Uh, what we were lacking, though, looking back, and both of us will agree to it, we didn't have at that time, we didn't have no church in our
Mm-hmm.
house.
Yep.
There was no cross on any of our walls. There was no Bible that was visibly said. That was a missing, and later in my story, I'll tell you how important that was. That was a missing element that could have given either one of us something that we didn't have to see the path of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage anybody looking at this, if you're in a young relationship where one person is more, committed to the job and stability and get the check every 2 weeks, where the other person is working a job like I was, but still out there hustling, right? To be that entrepreneur doing a network marketing company, MLM or direct sales or whatever it was, find a church,
Mm-hmm.
find a church, join some church groups, because that's when you can really kind of see the other side. Because now God is in the mix. We didn't have God in the mix. It was me and her. you
Mm-hmm.
know we didn't have a trilogy. It was just me and her. It was my way. It was her way, and it lasted for a while, but it didn't make it to the end because we were still together. We would be a $500,000 family household right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
It is
You
what
have
it
to go
is.
through it to get to it, right?
Mm-hmm. But and I'm so glad you brought that up because that's what was kind of coming in across my mind. Like, okay, so what was the missing piece here? And you hit it right there. Is you all had good intentions. Neither of you were wrong in that, but without the presence of God being that connector between you and your wife, then you expecting the two of you to figure this thing out when you're kind of on opposite ends of the thought process. Eventually,
Right.
like you said, it can sustain itself for a short period of time, but the long term of it, eventually it breaks apart because you don't have that necessary glue to hold it together. And that's where the relationship with God would have made all the difference in the world, because
All the difference in the world.
you could have brought it to him and said, "Hey, we kind of at an impasse, Lord. How do you what do you give to us? What do you recommend for us to do? Point us in the direction that we need to go to sort of bridge that gap, so it doesn't look like we're opponents with against each other, but instead that we're teammates, but that we're just
Hmm.
hitting it from a different sides of that. That, like you said, that's what have made all the difference in the world. And so I'm so grateful that you brought that up, because our listeners need to understand you can't do life on your own. And definitely when we talk about the confines of marriage, you try to do marriage without God if you want, there's going to eventually come a point where it just falls apart. Like I said, because and it's very easy to happen because you get caught up in the money. Like you said, we were making good money. We had the houses and the cars, and you get caught up in that stuff. And in the meantime, you don't forgot about God. You ain't even thinking about Him. And so every now and then, when such moments happen, because we know we serve a God who has openly made it known that He's a jealous God, every
Hmm.
now and then he has to allow certain storms to come our way. And it's not to destroy us, it's not to make life miserable for us. It's more of an attention grabber. Let me get your attention so you can redirect your focus back on what the priority, which is him.
Right.
Redirect your focus back on the relationship so then I can help you navigate through all of this. But right now you're
Absolutely.
not paying attention to me. You leaving me out. You flying
Hmm.
solo. Y'all doing your own thing. Well, he understands what that you've gotten sidetracked, and again, not holding a grudge, not looking to just take you out, but let me see what I can do to draw you back to me, to bring you closer to me, so that I can redirect your focus on what's important, and then all the other stuff that you want to happen, all the successes and all of that, you can still have it, but it has to start with me. You need to know where you're getting it from. I don't want you out here
Absolutely.
thinking that you're doing it all by yourself, because you're not. None of us are.
That's right.
And
That's right.
so, that's why sometimes these storms have to come our way. It's about growing us, developing us, stretching us, testing us in ways that again gets us shaped and molded in the right way, in the right path that we need to be on. So appreciate you sharing that. So Aaron, when you do find yourself facing adversity, I mean, I know obviously you mentioned some heavy stuff, losing your parent, going through a divorce, all of that's major. But sometimes our storms that we deal with are just the day to day nuances that we encounter, just lifing type stuff. But nevertheless, I'm curious to know from you, when you do find yourself facing challenging times and moments of adversity, what is it that you like to do that kind of works best for you in terms of processing through all of that? What's sort of your routine, your regiment that just again just aligns with you as you deal with whatever the challenge is that's before you?
Well, I've been truly blessed, and not even knowing I was being blessed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just been truly blessed, and it took when I got out of the military, and we were still married at the time, and I was doing my music thing, really heavy, promotions, marketing, but it was all music orientated or event planning, uh, and there was a time where it got really bad, and then I gave it all up and just went and got a job, and that didn't last real long. I mean, I was doing it because I wanted to keep the marriage together because
Mm-hmm.
that's what she wanted, but then it turned me into something that I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if I can't like myself, my kids ain't gonna like me. I ain't gonna do nothing for them, and I'm not gonna be me. So that was where it really kind of separated. And what I leaned back on, not even knowing what I was leaning on, was work, was business. I found myself um, getting more into the activity. And at that time, I was doing my music stuff, and I found this company called Prepaid Legal. And that was in 1999. I found Prepaid Legal, and I saw I saw regular people that had regular people issues that used this. At that time, it was only $16 to have an attorney help you with them regular people issues. And I was like, man, I got a lot of friends and family that got regular people issues. I probably could sell this,
Mm-hmm.
right? They had that 24-hour emergency access to your attorney. If you get pulled over by the police, I was like, what? I'm going right to the DPH on the block, and I'm letting all the brothers know, Popo pull you over, call. And man, I excelled in that service because I was blessed to be around regular people that seen it for what it was, and they excel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I got down in the dumps and was feeling bad, I just went to hang around them because they were feeling good, right? They were making money, they were helping people, their organizations were going with regular people. There was no college educated professors, master degree, people that done super duper things. It was regular people. So that was my thing that kind of, when I was getting down and depressed, I would go around other people and they would lift me up. And that was that whole thing, building relationships again.
Mm-hmm.
It goes all the way back to building those relationships. But I'll tell you this, because I see you got a comment or two you're about to come at me with. But this is what I learned, because I did excel in that business. And I became what they call a regional manager. So I had a whole territory. I became a company trainer. So now I had my own contract plus a company contract. Now it wasn't no money, but it was just a title, right? It was prestige. Uh, um, and I hit high levels. And then when I would go to the big events, we had them in Vegas, we had them in LA. I would be there in a suit and tie, looking all good, got my pins with my diamonds in it because I'm hitting the high levels, but I wasn't hitting the high money. There was people making 250,000, 500,000, $1 million that were my friends that I was training their people, right? But I was hitting like 45,000,
Mm-hmm.
47, 32. But every person, I'll cut this short, every person, when we were at conventions or these big Saturday events and they were getting them big old checks, congratulations, you hit $250,000. Every person, and I knew them, would get up there and say, first thing out their mouth, I thank God, or all praise Father, or I couldn't do this without God. That was the first thing out their mouth. So I'm sitting back there, And I'm like, I'm doing everything that they're doing. I do the meetings, I do the trainings, I do the calls. I'm training they people. I'm hitting the marks, but I'm not seeing the money. Maybe it's that God thing,
Mm-hmm.
because I ain't doing that. I got to figure out what this God thing is. Because I told you when I was little, I would watch and
Uh-huh.
observe. So I was watching them say, "All praise to God. Without God, I couldn't do this." God, and I wasn't doing that. So I started asking questions. What is what God thing? And they were like, "Man, come to church. You'll figure it out." So anybody that would invite me to church, I would go. Because I was seeking what this God thing was. Because even
Mm-hmm.
when I was little, the women went to church, the guys didn't go. So, and I didn't understand that either. The guys just didn't go. So I didn't get a church. I got a God experience growing up, but I didn't get a church experience. That part of God, and which is so important
Mm-hmm.
growing up. So that was the thing for me, because every time I would go, he would hit me a little pow. I'd be like, whoa, okay. The spirit would be, it would be a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then finally it was the right church, the right atmosphere, and it was the God thing. And then that's when I broke 50. I broke 60. I broke 70. I broke 80. I was at 97,000. And we'll go into that'll be a next phase. But that was that thing right there, man. It was the God thing. It was the
Mm-hmm.
associations, the people pulled me out. Then that God thing.
Mm. I love that. I love that because, like you
Yeah,
said, it's so important, especially when you're going through adverse times, to have that circle of people in your corner that you, like you said, that just being around them can kind of uplift your spirits, make you forget about your troubles, and you can see the joy and happiness in other people. And it's not just the joy in their lives financially, but like you said, they were just regular, relatable
regular
folks,
people.
and life was good for them. So when I was feeling down and I was around them, it picked me up. But then you leveled it up even more when you talked about, again, going back to that relationship with God and recognizing that there's still something that's missing. I mean, I'm working my butt off, and I'm seeing other people. They're not doing anything more than I'm doing, but they're being blessed. It just seems like things are going better for them. But what you realized through your observation is that they had that God relationship, and you
That's
didn't.
right.
And so
That's right.
you began to seek Him, which is exactly what He wanted anyway.
Right.
He allowed your situation to be such to where it struck your curiosity, if you will, to seek more of him, to find out more about them, and the more you did, like you said, the more he convicts you, the more he pours into you, to ultimately, like you said, it gets to a point where I finally find a church home that I'm connected with. The word is right, everything about it is right, and I'm going all in. I'm fully engulfing myself into the God relationship, just like I fully engulf myself into my entrepreneurial ventures. God has nothing wrong
Absolutely.
with you going all in with your business, but not if it means you're not going all in with Him. And in fact, He wants you to go all in with Him, even more than what you go all in with the business, because you doing so, the business will take care of itself. Which is why, as you did more of God, you begin to see more fruits of your labor. You begin to see more prosperity. You begin to see more successes come your way. You weren't doing anything different mechanically speaking, but relationally, you were doing major moves because you
Absolutely.
understood that I can't do this no matter how talented and skilled I am. If I really want to see success at levels that are beyond my imagination, beyond anything that I thought I was capable of accomplishing, God has to be a part of that dynamic. He has to be a part of that
Absolutely.
equation. And so I appreciate you pointing that out. And to my listeners, this is why. And again, it's not just I want to have a relationship with God so I can get rich. That
Right.
that's just one of many things that can happen at the financial part of it. But I want to have that relationship with God so when I'm going through, I can tap into that peace, joy, and calm. Even if I'm not going through, I can have someone that I can speak to that keeps me level headed, keeps my mind focused, as we talked about earlier, to make sure that I'm not doing the things that's going to get me sidetracked, that's going to cost my blessings because I'm making
Right.
mistakes and connecting with associations that are not healthy for me, that are not in alignment with His will. for my life. So all of those things that you're tapping into are so critical, and it's all going back to that relationship. So again, thank you for that. Um,
Yeah, my
so
pleasure.
yes, yes. So Aaron, if you had an opportunity to speak to the younger Aaron, if you could sit across from him, all the things that you've experienced, gone through, ups, downs, highs, lows, if you could sit across the table from him and impart in him some words of encouragement, some words of wisdom, some things that you wish he would have known then that you know now, that you think might have not so much, eliminated storms, because it's not about the eliminating of storms, but maybe allowed him to be able to navigate through those challenging moments a little bit smoother than perhaps he did back then, or just taking into consideration that there's somebody listening to our episode today that they're feeling that stuck moment where they thinking to themselves, I'm trying to do all what I think is the right things, but I just don't seem like it's moving along the way I thought it was gonna do, and it's kind of bringing me down a bit. I'm beating myself up about it. I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling like was it all worth going through all of this if there's not going to be any fruits that are revealed to me from my labors? I'm ready to give up on what I
Mhm.
thought was my dream. What would be those words of encouragement, those words of inspiration that you have for those listeners as well as younger Aaron?
Wow, that's a tough one because that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
But if I would really encourage picking up the word, you know, and pick up the word and go to a church, right? And don't go to a church to go to church, right? Go to the church to be a difference, not just make a difference, to be a difference. Because if you can be a difference, then you will make a difference, and it will make a difference on you. So I think that's the foundational thing that I missed out on.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to tell my story in a way that it can relate to other people that I talk to, because I do talk to people. I do. I have some mentorships where I mentor people, and I'm still being mentored, right? So never think you always listen to others. My mother taught me this, and this is what I would share, and I share it often too. She said, never get mad at your money,
Hmm.
right? Never get mad at your money. So you might work somewhere and you might hate your boss, but that's your money though, right? Hating your boss is not gonna get you promoted. It's not gonna get you an extra shift. Right? Coming in with that bad attitude towards those other employees, you get mad at your money, which is affecting your money, your ability to make money. So never get mad at your money. It's not a good thing. And if you were in a church environment, you would understand that because you would
Mm-hmm.
have something to go to. There's some scriptures in there that you can read, that you can listen to. But that's my big thing is get into that word to be better, right? Because when you're better, it's hard to be bad. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
to let stuff affect you. I learned early on too from a gentleman by the name of Hal Farish. He was very instrumental in mentoring me, still is today. Hal Farish, he told me a story. He said when he used to sell cars, and this guy can sell anything. He used to sell cars, and back then in the 70s, I think he said in the 70s, uh, the big mustaches, right, was really cool, right? But people coming on the car lot to buy cars wasn't looking for a cool salesman. They were looking for a knowledgeable salesman. So
Mm-hmm.
having that mustache all and them sideburns was cool, but it didn't sell cars. So he shaved it off. He was like, sometimes, Aaron, you got to do something that you don't want to do so you could be in a position to do what you got to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, it goes back into being in a church environment, and go to a church again, not to be churchy, but go to there to where you feel, where you got to feel something, right? When I used to visit churches, and the church that I go to now, I go to it because I feel like I need to be there. If anyone, and then I had to be the pastor, if anyone in the church asked me to volunteer to do something, I would do it because I feel I'm supposed to be there because it's pouring into me. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what you should, when you find your church home, you should want to clean the bathrooms. You should want to stay and straighten up the chairs because that's your church home. So
Mm-hmm.
go to a church home to feel that this is a home, because I'm telling you, if you go and you go on a regular and you start getting involved and you get engaged with the people in the church body, you're going to find other businessmen there, other business women there. You're going to find authors there. You're going to find coaching there. You're going to find everything that you need in there. Now, they might not be all flashy and cashy, but they consistent,
Mm-hmm.
and they got the word, and they're consistent in what they're doing. And maybe it was just me. I don't think so, but I was put in church environments where I was around, and I can't explain why, other than it was just God doing what He wanted me to do, and I did what I felt I needed to do. Being around the right person and hearing the right things, right, and paying attention and then acting upon it. That's what kept my fire, my entrepreneurial fire going. Just being around. Once I figured this God thing out and started going to church, it was keeping me around entrepreneurial spirited church, because church is entrepreneur. That's all about an entrepreneur. A church is a business, right? It is a business. They got to pay bills. They got to pay taxes. It's a business, and people got to volunteer to go there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those people that go there sitting in pews, they probably got jobs, they got families, they got wives, they got husbands, they got everything that you need, young person, right? And they figure some things out, but they had some help from that church community and that word. Trying to do it on your own, I'm telling you, there's gonna be success, but there's gonna be peaks and valleys. You're not gonna understand why. You're not gonna understand how to get out of it. And sometimes you won't get out of it because you don't have the father in the corner. You don't have your COO, CEO, COO, HNIC. You don't have a boss working with you, and that's God.
All right, that's very well said, man. You hit it. You hit it on the mark. He has to be. He has to be a part of the process, and that fellowship, that church fellowship, means so much. And then
Oh, so much.
that's a common debate that people have. You know what they'll say. I'm spiritual, but I don't need a church. You know, but
Right. Or
and
I'm
then
gonna watch it
and they,
online. I'm gonna do
yeah,
church online.
I'm gonna
You can
be
do church
bedside
online, but
Baptist.
you gotta
But
be in that environment,
you got to be
man,
in
with
that
other
environment.
people.
It's the fellowship amongst brothers and sisters in Christ, trying to do the same things that you're doing, making those relationships, making those connections. Like I said, the family. That's the whole essence of what we've been talking about. Being around family, and from being around family, yes, it opens up opportunities. You know, when we look at it from a business standpoint, it opens up those opportunities for you to be able to meet, certain people here and there. And the thing is you won't even have to force it. God will arrange the introductions for you. But again, but before you start getting all caught up into that and trying to use, God as your business hookup or whatever, it starts with the relationship with Him first. Do we have a relationship? And then from there, I can expose you to all of the things that you think you need, people, resources, whatever. I can expose you to that, but you got to have that relationship with me first. We got to be tight like that, and allow me to pour into you. Allow yourself to be dependent upon me, operating in faith, operating in obedience to me, and just let me do my thing, and you respond accordingly. Don't question it, just do it. So that's good stuff. Good stuff, man. So Aaron, this has been a wonderful time, man. Hanging with you, hearing about your story, your journey. I know I've been blessed. I know my viewers have been blessed, man. This has been awesome, man. And I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to be a part of this and allowing us to experience your journey and your story, because it's definitely been a lot of meaningful stuff that we can apply right away into our respective lives and how we face our challenges and adversities, man. So I'm thoroughly appreciative of that. But as is customary here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, before I let you go, we do want to take an opportunity, man, to celebrate you, to love on you, to acknowledge you. So if you got anything that's going on professionally and or personally that's going on now or coming up down the pike, please share that with us. We want to know what you got, what you working on, what you're getting locked into, how we can be a part of that, support it, experience it as well. So what's in store for Aaron, man? What you got going on that we need to know about, put out there for the listeners?
Well, look at arroncard.com. That's ARRONCARD.com. That's my digital business with my digital business card from the company Marketingopedia. We are a digital platform that is web based, which makes us really different. It's not all about apps, ladies and gentlemen. Matter of fact, an app is nothing but a glorified website. It's a www dot. All apps are web links. So why spend the money on a web link when you can just save your money and have a website, have an online presence? But with Marketingopedia, 2025 is awesome because at the end of the year, show you how God works. I was reunited with an old business associate of 25 years ago. Now, he and I hadn't talked in 24 years. We've been on LinkedIn, ain't even been sending messages back and forth. He's just there, I'm just there. We did something 25 years ago, 24 years ago in the music industry. The same gentleman that introduced us into that music industry, and God rest his soul, he just passed away uh, Friday.
Mm.
But this same gentleman reintroduced us in November. So I ain't talked to Steve in 25 years. Rich, me, and Steve worked on a project 25 years ago. Rich called me up, say, Aaron, I want to do it one more time, give it a go. I got Steve on the line. So he reconnected us up. Steve had just bought into a huge digital platform and he knows nothing of digital platforms. He's in the music and entertainment industry. He's got to deal with Sony, 30 years, right? Doing it. But he saw my card from that call and he said, I need to talk to you. Basically, he said, you run it, I paid for it, make it work. So we are now powered by two mega companies, Super Data and Street Buzz. But we now have the ability to do loans. So if you're a business and you need some money, right? This company came to us because of our reach and said, we want you to be a lead generator for us because you are tapped in. If you talk to somebody and they got 6 months worth of money from their business, they got, some collateral, or they got 680 score. Any one of those things, you give them to us, we'll get them a loan. It could be a credit card, a credit line. So that's exciting. We now can build small websites like we did for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can do small websites under $500 a year. We now can do full out e-commerce websites, $50,000 websites, 50 pages. We can do that. We can do ads, LSA ads, where their phone call, they run ads. People, you know how people find stuff on the internet and then they fill out a form and then somebody calls them and clears them and then passes them on. Those are vetted leads. We can do those. So from a marketing standpoint, my little digital business card company has expanded into this opportunity to really help it, because my goal is not to immediately target bigger companies. I'm still going to work with Small Business America because I was trained by Mr. Harlan Stonecipher that there's more small business people in America than there are incs and corporations, LLCs, right? So the field is much bigger. I'd rather have 10,000 clients at $500 a pop than try to find 10 clients at $10,000 a pop. And a lot of very smart Business coaches disagree with me, but that's where you make money sometimes, going against the grain. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you do what everybody else does, you're gonna get what everybody else gets. Sometimes you have to do the different things to get something different. And I got God all up in it, and we are gonna make it happen. So if you need something from a marketing standpoint, go to aaroncard.com and you'll be able to get in touch with me very easily.
That is awesome, man. And as he stated, he does excellent work. They did my digital card. So if you want to check that out, Mr. Joseph B. Roberts Card.com, you can get an example of what that work looks like on my scale as well as his. And, just awesome stuff, man. I mean, this is groundbreaking,
There
revolutionary.
go yours right there.
Yep, there it is right there. So and just being able I love, of course, the features of it in terms of, just being able to reach out and say, hey, add this, take that out, just in real time, keep it all fresh, and having that support. We talked about that, having that support system in place for somebody like me who's not techie, but likes techie looking stuff, likes it to look clean and sharp and classy, and you
Yeah.
guys have not disappointed,
Joseph, I'll
so.
tell you, that's the power of having something web based. It's simple. I was with a guy yesterday. I had to go to North Carolina for another business deal, and he's got an employee that's in his 70s, and he's just there because the guy just brings attitude, and he just brings knowledge to the game. So the guy was like, see if he understands how to use the card, because they wanted to go to the card, but he felt he was so old school. He's a pen and paper guy.
Mm.
So I said, all right, let's role play. Let's act like I'm selling you one of our products here. And I just met you and I want to give you my card. And I went through the whole thing, man. He pulled his phone out, he opened up the camera, he scanned the QR code. Then I said, okay, hit that button there. And he did that. And I said, you know what's going on with your phone? He said, no, I don't. I said, okay, well, just put my name, my phone number, my email, my website, and my card in the contacts of your phone. He said, that's brilliant. He said, that's brilliant. We should have this. He talked to his boss. We should have this. This makes sense.
Yeah.
People walk around with their phone. This guy's 70 years old. So the simplicity of it is the beauty in it. We keep it super simple. And yeah, this thing is going to really rock it with the more stuff that we can do from a marketing standpoint. By the way, Steve is bringing on that entertainment thing, so we got another gentleman he's drafting up some stuff and presenting to us because he's an animator.
Okay.
So we're gonna have some animation opportunities. We got another guy that's is a film in the movies. So it's all, and this is part of this interview. This whole thing, it's all about people, right? Networking, getting to know people. Go to these events, get to know people. That's what I got really good at, is going to where the people are that I wanted to learn to associate with, to see if my products and services can fit in there, and then do a good enough job to, just like Joseph, they'll refer, and then you make more. So that's what marketing PD is all about. We're not only doing it, we're teaching people how to do it.
That is beautiful, man. Beautiful. And I'm so excited for what God has in store for you, what He's already working on, and what's getting ready to manifest itself moving forward. So, nothing but favor. I pray over your life, man, and all your works that you're doing, man. You're a good brother, trying to again be encouraging, being supportive, just truly helping, those small businesses that are trying to thrive and put themselves out there so that that their impact can be felt, because as you obviously understand, being an entrepreneurship is it's not an easy road to travel, and a lot of like late hours, a lot of hard work, and you want to see some fruits of those labors.
Absolutely.
Of course, it begins with God, obviously, but
Amen.
but just even with that, God will introduce you to the errands of the world and others who want to genuinely be there to help you out, not to scam you, not to run some quick game on you and make promises to you that are just not going to materialize, but genuinely and authentically want to be there for you. So he's giving you his contact information if that's something of interest to you personally, or if you know of someone that's going to be of interest to. Definitely tap into it. It'll be definitely worth your while. I've enjoyed working, of course, with Laura. She's been great. I
Yeah,
probably get
she's
on.
awesome.
I probably bug her to death every time, sending her add this, switch this, change this. But she's patient with me and she works it out and does great work as well. So shout out to her. So again, man, I'm so thankful for you taking the time out and sharing with us and pouring into us this evening. And for my listeners, if you've enjoyed our podcast, if you enjoyed the sharing of the stories and what we've been able to learn and glean from my brother Aaron this evening, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment, because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is about: inspiring, encouraging, uplifting, telling our stories in a very raw, authentic, transparent, and vulnerable way, hoping that there's something, a gem here, a nugget there that you can apply to your respective situations and be able to move on that, help you to navigate those adversities, those storms of life, because we understand that everybody goes through these moments. They're not always easy. They're not always comfortable. We sometimes question the timing of it, but you know what? The storms are not to be looked at as negative events. These are opportunities for us to grow, to develop, to become better versions of ourselves. The storm has to have permission to come your way from God in order for it to travel down your street. So if He's letting it come your way, it is to equip you to be a blessing or to be blessed. Either way, that's a winning combination. But most importantly, if you don't have a relationship with God, today is a mighty fine day to make that decision. And I will tell you, and I'm sure Aaron, as he's already stated to you, it'll be the best decision that you ever make. Quit doing life without God. Quit excluding Him from your relationships, excluding Him from your business ventures, excluding Him from your marriages or any other aspect of your life. You want Him in every segment of everything that you do and everyone that you connect with. He'll be your guide. He'll navigate your steps. He's going to love you unconditionally, even with all your flaws and imperfections. But He's going to be the one that you can count on, that you can bank on, to give you that encouragement, that strength, that mindset that you need to have to enjoy life as He intended for you to enjoy it. So just keep that in mind especially as you're dealing with the challenges and adversities of life, and always thank Him even in the midst of the storms, because again, that's why the Word tells us to count it all joy, because even in the most difficult of times, God can bring forth blessings. And I won't share it at this moment, but just even today, God, bestowed on me a very major blessing, in the midst of a very major storm that I've been dealing with. So He's faithful. He is faithful and rock solid in His promises to you. So remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. I thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. Continue to include God into every aspect of your life. Continue to depend upon Him. Exercise that faith, obedience in Him. Do what He says, even if it doesn't make sense to you. That's okay, because everything that He does is perfect. He's analyzed and thought out all the details and the particulars. You don't have to worry about anything. Just trust in Him, and He will not lead you astray. So until next time, you take care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you at our next podcast episode. Have a great rest of your evening.